Welcome to Textile Update, the podcast where we can share our passion for textiles, fibers, and yarns. This is Gwendolyn Hustvedt. In the third in a series of 4 podcasts that look at protein fibers, we now turn our attention to the minor protein fibers, those that come from animal sources but are not wool. We're going to look very quickly at the group of fibers that are called the minor protein fibers. Now, you can learn all you want to know about protein fibers by looking in what I might call the Bible of textiles, a book called Matthew's Textile Fibers. I have a copy of this book. I bought it from an online rare book dealer because I was looking for a copy that was older than 1950. When we look back at the textiles curricula from the early 20th century, we can see that Matthew's Textile Fibers, which began being published actually in the late 19th century, was an important reference, an authoritative encyclopedia compilation of all of the extant information about textile fibers. And so you can find out about almost every obscure little fiber. Now, the reason that I went to the trouble to get edition of the book for prior to 1950 is that once synthetics were invented, obviously synthetics had to be included, but in order to keep the book from being even more massive than it already is, they began to drop some of the minor fibers. And if you're in love with natural fibers like I am, then it was important to have a book that could share all of this additional information. So if you're really serious about textiles, tracking down your very own copy of Matthew's Textile Fibers can be important. Just now, I'm focusing on developing the basic understanding. That's what this particular podcast series is about, but I can imagine at some point in the future just having a whole series where I spend time and luxuriate in Matthew's Textile Fibers. But just to dip in and discuss a few of the specialty hair fibers that are important within the fashion industry. We have these in two main groups, the goats versus camels. And you're like, camels, but there's just camels in the camel group. Goats, there's just goats in the goat group. Well, but there's different kinds, and camels have camelids, which are animals that are related to camels but are smaller. And then we have rabbits all by themselves. So I don't even make them a whole group. In the goat family, we have the Angora goat and the cashmere goat. The Angora goat produces mohair, which is long and is in fact considered the most resilient natural fiber. And this is because it has no crimp, but it just has a very sturdy structure, which really makes it ideal for carpeting. That's what mohair is ideal for. Because it doesn't have any crimp, it has very low cohesion. This makes it challenging to include mohair in apparel construction because when you spin it into a spun yarn, you're depending on cohesion to make the fibers stick to themselves, right? But the mohair fibers will end up falling out of the yarns. There's sort of a joke back in the 50s, mohair sweaters were popular among young people, and they might come in his and her colors, right? Navy blue and red, right? And that you could tell who had been, well, to use the Harry Potter term, snogging who, because you could see navy blue mohair fibers on someone's red mohair sweater, and then you knew that they'd been in contact with the navy blue mohair sweater because the mohair fibers would actually just simply pull out of the sweater. In fact, it has low enough cohesion that we don't make mohair carpeting using 100% mohair. It's always going to be blended with wool, which will end up forming the base of the yarn. and the mohairs serve as the portion of the yarn that provides the excellent resiliency. It's a fairly transparent fiber, which means that the dyes that are used really show through in their true brilliant colors. Mohair is produced in Texas, in part because Texas has a climate that is similar. I mean, we don't think of Texas as being the nation's lead, and by nation I mean the United States, the nation's leading fiber producing state, but in fact it is. More cotton, more wool, more mohair, more everything. It's really big, that's one of it, but also if we think about merino goats, which were bred and developed in Spain, for example, and merino sheep. Boy, merino goats would be cool. If we think about the Middle East, where sheep actually originated from, right, were domesticated, and then we think about the climate of Texas, hot, scrublands with feed that is not desired by cattle, despite the image of Texas as a cattle ranching region. In fact, most of it is not. And so we have this sort of scrubland that is desirable by sheep and goats. And so Angora goats were brought in to produce mohair in the middle of the 20th century, was actually supported by the U.S. government as a viable industry. Once mohair fell out of favor as an apparel fiber, that became a challenge for the industry, and now, in fact, most mohair in the world is produced in South Africa. It's really important to note the name of the animal that produces mohair is not the mo. It's the Angora goat. The Angora, we think it may come from the word Ankara, which is the name of an important historical city in Turkey. So Ankara, Turkey would be potentially had been mutated by English-speaking tongues into Angora. Angora fiber is produced by the Angora rabbit, and similar to mohair, Angora fiber is difficult to dye. Mohair fiber is not difficult to dye. It dyes really beautiful colors, but Angora fibers are difficult to retain inside yarn because they're also very smooth and slippery. So Angora fibers are typically white. They're used to add sort of a corona of softness to a fiber, a halo of softness, Angora is just sort of a watchword for soft. Even Angora cats are very soft. Now, the cashmere goat comes from, this is going to be so unsurprising. It's not shocking in any way. The Kashmir region, right, of Southeast Asia. The Kashmir region is now a disputed region. Unfortunately, we have some conflict in the Kashmir region. Talk to somebody from India, and they'll say that the Kashmir region belongs to India. Talk to somebody from Pakistan, they'll say that the Kashmir region belongs to Pakistan. The Kashmir region is in the Himalayas. It has alpine areas like ski resorts and stuff. I guess you could see why people are fighting about it, right? It's a nice, a very beautiful, picturesque region. The Kashmir goat lives at those high altitudes, produces this very soft, very fine fiber that is fragile, has poor abrasion resistance, but is very luxuriously comfortable, very fine, even finer than lamb's wool, and so can make very soft and comfortable garments. Cashmere goats are not sheared. We don't shear goats. We don't shear Angora goats either. We exfoliate their fibers in the sense that we either wait for them to fall out or we brush them with a brush and just gently tug them out because they're ready to fall out. In fact, most cashmere goats are not domesticated. They just run wild on the mountainside, and people follow after them and find clumps of their fiber in bushes and against rocks where they may have rubbed up against, and they gather and collect them. This this is the reason why cashmere should be so expensive, because it's not farm produced. It's produced in the wild, and there's a lot of labor involved in gathering the cashmere fibers. In fact, if you've bought anything that wasn't very expensive, right, if you're like, oh wow, I can afford this, and it claimed to be cashmere, then I would very much doubt that it actually was cashmere. There is a tracing system in place for cashmere. I can't remember the name of it just at the moment, but it's estimated that another 100% of fibers that are sold as cashmere are not cashmere. So if you bought a pashmina in Times Square, that wasn't cashmere. It was very fine wool. You could argue, what's the difference, right? If it tricked you into thinking it was cashmere, it would be important if you were a brand that was paying quite a lot for a fiber and passing that cost on to customers, and then not actually getting what you were paying for. To be honest, if I were looking for a fiber that was similar to cashmere in terms of its softness and thermal retention, I would probably go for a camelid fiber. I would probably go for alpaca. Baby alpaca that comes from the first shed of the youngest alpaca, is comparable with cashmere. So the camel hair, the camel family includes, well, I'm going to shock you here at the camel. Camels live in desert regions now, including even Australia. But of course, originally, the Saudi Arabian desert, the Saharan desert, the Gobi desert, right? So desert regions of the world. And camel hair is, notice it's called hair, not wool, and that's because it doesn't have crimp, and it's fairly coarse. It is water repellent, a good insulator, which makes sense for an animal to develop if they live in a hot, arid region. It doesn't dye well. It's naturally tan, what we would even call a camel color. And so most camel products are just camel colored. If you ever come across a camel hair coat in a thrift store, for example, from someone's estate, buy it. Doesn't matter if it doesn't fit you, but just buy it, because you found something that's increasingly rare, and you'll find somebody someday that wants it. Ask around. A true camel hair coat is something that someone can prize for a lifetime, because it's warm and water repellent. There was a reason why it was the coat that was chosen, the fiber that was chosen for the coats of the officer class during the 20th century. People had to spend a lot of time outdoors in inclement and challenging weather, but who were high-ranking enough to deserve the very best. So, as I mentioned, camelids are animals that are related to camels, but much smaller. Camelids are indigenous to South America. And so the llama is the taller version. A llama would be slightly taller than you as a human being. An alpaca would be smaller than you, like an alpaca would be the size of a human child. Llamas are have a very distinctive personality, and are sometimes trained and bred as guard animals. So shepherd or sheep ranchers might include a llama out in the field with the sheep, because if a wolf or other predator approached the sheep scare easily and would end up being injured in the panic, even if only one or two of them fell prey to the predator. But if you have a llama in the field, the llama can come roaring over, spit and kick at the wolf, really definitely tell the wolf that this is not an easy picking, and the sheep can relax, because the llama is doing the fighting for them. It kind of sounds vaguely like high school social structure. So are you the llama in your group? Alpaca, much smaller. And then we have an even smaller animal in the same family, the vicuña, which is, vicuña has the softest and the rarest and the finest of the camelid fibers, and is thereby even more valuable and expensive than cashmere. As an average consumer, you've never even encountered something made from vicuña. It would be reserved for luxury products. So if you're ever rich and famous, just skip right past cashmere and go to vicuña. Vicuña are not programmed within the Andean countries, Ecuador, Peru to actually RFID tag the existing vicuña in order to determine whether they are being stolen or transported across the borders. Vicuña have not been domesticated in any widespread way beyond the Andean region, in a way similar to cashmere goats that have not really been successfully domesticated in large quantities beyond the Himalayan region. Alpaca, on the other hand, there are alpaca ranches in the U.S. Is it a significant source of fiber? It's no, not really, compared with the fiber sources from South America. But they are able to be bred in quote captivity outside of the Andean region. The alpaca, the vicuña, we just haven't gotten there. Angora rabbits are pets, right? People keep them as pets, but you can brush them and pull out the fiber. I've met some Angora rabbits at fiber fairs, very cute and cuddly, and to remove the fiber, you just brush them. Now, as a warning, some facilities that produce a lot of Angora fiber, there have been disturbing and unpleasant videos circulated by animal rights groups that show the exfoliation being much more brutal, and pulling the hair out using much more harsh methods that hurt the animals. And this is an important thing to consider, regardless of your personal feelings about animals. And believe it or not, there's a variety of types of feelings that people have about animals. This is a long-standing trend that we see. Some people feel that animals are capable of suffering and leading lives of interest to themselves, and other people just simply do not. Regardless of how you feel, it's important to remember that the people who do feel that animals are capable of suffering are highly motivated by this belief. And so as soon as a particular fiber is associated with mistreatment of animals, then it can have a real challenge being marketed to that particular group of people, which is a very large percentage of people. So stepping aside from any particular moral question, which this is hard because people who don't feel that animals are capable of suffering and leading lives of interest to themselves can't see the moral argument, right? Because they just lack the belief that sets it up. But whether or not they can be appealed to from the perspective of, my God, man, they're suffering, you can appeal to them from the perspective of their wallet, right? Look, you're going to find it hard to sell a product that people associate with poor, shivering, bleeding rabbits. So getting on the right side of animal cruelty campaigns, making sure that your sourcing is ethical when it comes to animals can just be good business sense. So Angora rabbits, because they're bred in captivity, can come from anywhere. So although, again, the word Angora may suggest that they came from Turkey originally, I guess if you believe if you're one of the people who believes the story of Noah's Ark, and that the Ark is in the mountains near Angora or Ankara, then you might believe that everyone came from the Angora region originally, right? That's one mythological view of the world, and then you realize how much stock we would put in that word as a possible origin for the animal. If you can keep the Angora rabbit as a pet, then it belongs in your region. All right, so those are the minor or specialty hair fibers. I just barely glossed the surface of these very soft, beautiful, and often expensive fibers.